Hello friends, hello professionals, and welcome to my channel, The Sea of Regulation. My name is Simone Martin, and I'm a financial services regulator, and I'm here to make issues about financial services a little easier for people to understand. And in this installment, this is one of the topics that I'm going to cover in The Basics, a series dedicated to making it easy for anyone, whether you're in the financial services industry or not, and you're curious and you want to know information. Now, in this particular video, I'm going to be looking at what is a compliance manual. But before I dive in, let me get my usual disclaimers out of the way. I am a financial services regulator. I am not a lawyer, and I'm not a professional advisor. And the views on this channel are definitely all my own and do not reflect the views of any regulatory authority or international standard setter. Now, with that out of the way, let's dive in. Compliance manuals. They're a requirement that we regulators have to review, and sometimes we put out guidance in relation to what that compliance manual should contain. Now, if you're in the financial services industry and work in compliance, this may be very familiar territory for you, but for everyone else, it might not be. So as the name suggests, it's a manual that deals with compliance procedures, and those compliance procedures are the things that you are supposed to do or the things you're not supposed to do to make sure that you're compliant with financial services legislation. Now, notice I didn't say amlcft legislation because compliance goes deeper than that. You see, there are certain statutory requirements that all firms have that go outside of amlcft. And in a number of cases, we've encountered people who might not appreciate that. So for example, something as simple as the firm shall always have a minimum of 2 directors. Well, it might not be in a compliance manual that's distributed to staff, but it needs to be somewhere that is a statutory requirement and that all measures should be put in place to make sure that you do not breach that. Now, things happen and the world is a strange place. But let's drill down to something that's a little less morbid than the untimely passing of a director, because this is real life and these things do happen. Now, the statutory requirements can go far and wide. I'll give an example: submitting audited financial statements. What controls are in place to make sure that you submit them on time? Because they are time sensitive. Beyond making sure that finance has prepared all the statements and the management accounts in a timely manner, and that you've started the audit in a good time, and that there are certain documents that you have to file, those things should be laid out somewhere in relation to how the firm will operate. But let's drill down to, say, record keeping, because that's something that I spoke about in another video that tends to not go that well. Now, what are you supposed to do in relation to record keeping? It could talk about what due diligence you're supposed to capture, how you're supposed to carry out risk assessments, when you're supposed to update your due diligence, how you carry on transaction monitoring. And remember, transaction monitoring doesn't mean money. It means, just as the name says, transactions. So a lot of people who think, oh, I don't deal with money, I don't need to do that. That's not true. That's not true. Whoever told you that, just don't listen to them and do your own research. I am a firm believer of finding out things for yourself. But are you carrying out your transaction monitoring? Are you checking intermittently or with technology every day against the sanctions list, international sanctions? So UN sanctions, OFAC, EU, there are a number of bodies that issue sanctions. Are you checking those things? So when it comes to how you maintain the files, that should be recorded in your compliance manual. So if it's digital or analog, how are you safeguarding those files from being corrupted? In the case of the analog, how are you making sure that coffee stains don't end up on your paper? And in relation to the digital records, how are you making sure that that file is the file that you need? So let's drill down a bit deeper. I'm creating a digital file. I have that passport copy, remember? So it's scanned. Who's checking to make sure that it's legible? Once it's there, who's making sure that it actually is my passport and it's not my brother's or some random person's passport, and it's saved with the right information to it? And once the file is created, do you have a non-delete protocol so that no one can delete a file, or that you have audit mechanisms to see who accesses the file? because sometimes that is more important than actually getting the files in and making sure you have safe records. And once someone accesses the file, do you have a record of who accessed that file, when, and for how long? Is there a particular way that I save this? So should I save it with my name? Should I save it with passport? Like, what's the identifier? How do I catalog that digital file? And however you record your digital files should be a well-maintained system that allows you to find the records in a speedy manner. Now, record keeping is one of the areas that we tend to see a lot of issues with. And when it comes to digital records, how are you making sure that the data integrity remains, like it's not corrupted? You don't have someone stealing your information. You don't have other issues coming in terms of upgrading your security protocols, upgrading software. And when people come in, so you have third-party IT professionals that are installing things, do you have someone who shadows them? Because they have full reign of your system. Do you have someone sufficiently qualified to make sure that they are not just the fox in the henhouse type scenario and just going Christmas shopping with your client's records? So those are some of the things that we look at that are captured or should be captured in your compliance manual. Your compliance manual should also speak to how you deal with suspicious activity reports and suspicious transaction reports. And I've made videos in relation to that. So if you're interested, I'll definitely drop some links in the description below. Who's the MLRO? How do you report a suspicious activity? How do you report a suspicious transaction? Do they know who the MLRO is? And that's the money laundering reporting officer. The compliance manual is supposed to be a complete document setting out how you go about your day-to-day activities to make sure that you are compliant with the relevant laws and legislation as it relates to that business. So I'm going to end it there because this is for the basics. And I can definitely get more in depth if you want. But if you have comments or questions, you know what to do. Put them in the comments below. And do that YouTube thing. Give me a like if you like the content, and share it with some of your friends if you think they'll find this interesting. And beyond that, if you haven't already, subscribe. What are you waiting for? Just subscribe. And hit the notification bell so you are notified every time I drop something resembling some video, so that you could keep up to date on all things compliance and regulation and making sure it's user-friendly. And with that, I am going to be out of here until the next video.